Hi, my name's Lee and I work for Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Service. This is Westbourne Fire Station and I'm going to talk to you about the specialist vehicle that we have stationed here. At Westbourne we have a normal fire engine in Bay 2, or a pump as we like to call it, and in Bay 3 we have an aerial ladder platform, or as we call it for short, an ALP. An ALP is something that we use within the fire service to perform a specific task. So on a normal fire engine you've got a 13.5 metre ladder, and that's the maximum height capability that we can go to. So if we need to perform any other type of function beyond that capability, we can call in specialist resources in the form of an aerial appliance. Within the fire service there are different types of aerials. You've got a turntable ladder, you've got a hydraulic platform, and there's also some types which are known as carts, which is a combination of the two. This, as you can see, has a boom package, and strapped to the side of it is a ladder, hence the name aerial ladder platform. So it's kind of a two-in-one. I'm going to talk to you today about what we use the ALP for. I'm going to take you around the vehicle and show you what's on board, and I'm also going to jack it and pitch it, and we're going to operate it from the booms and from the cage as well, just to show you how it functions and works. Come with me. In Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Service there are 4 ALPs. 3 of them are 32 metres or 100 foot, and they're located at Swindon, Salisbury and Weymouth. And the 4th one is a 42 metre or 140 foot, and that's this one here that's located at Westbourne in Bournemouth. The Fire and Rescue Service decided that they were going to purchase this vehicle due to the large increase of high-rise residential premises that were recently constructed in the Bournemouth area. And the 42 metre has that added capability beyond 32 metre ALPs. So the Fire and Rescue Service, when ordering an ALP, will go to a specialist vehicle manufacturer, and in this case it was Rosenbauer. Rosenbauer make the boom package, or the superstructure as we call it, and they go to a lorry company as such, and in this case it's Mercedes, and they marry the two up. So the vehicle itself, comprising of the cab and the chassis, is a 2-person cab which is crewed by a driver and an officer in charge, and this is unlike a normal fire appliance which can crew up to 6 personnel. You've got the bodywork or the chassis, and that comprises of the lockers which carries the equipment within, and there's not that much equipment on the ALPs as we mainly utilise equipment from pump and appliances at an incident. And then we're on to the superstructure, or the boom package as we call it as well. The main boom has 3 extensions within, which allows us to get to our full working height of 42 metres. It comprises of a turntable and also a cage. When we operate the machine, there must be somebody sat on the turntable, and if we do decide to put somebody in the cage, we can then have the two working together. And that is pretty much the ALP. So we're going to walk around the ALP now and take a more detailed look as to the configuration of the vehicle. So as I mentioned earlier, the reason it's called an ALP is due to it being a combination of a hydraulic platform and a turntable ladder, so the aerial ladder platform. So as you can see on the off side of the vehicle you have the ladders which are attached to the boom package. So that's all part of the boom package up there, with the cage attached to. And as we walk around the vehicle, there's not really that much in regards to equipment, as when we turn up at incidents we will utilise most of the equipment that's on a normal pumping appliance. However, because this is a vehicle that can be used for working with rescues at height, it does come with its own stretcher and stretcher carrier. And as you can see, they're located in the locker that's behind the cab. Moving round, we've got another small locker which has a fuel can and some additional equipment in that box, not really of any interest. On the side we've got the access ladder to the decking, and as you can see just to the right of the access ladder we've got 3 wooden boards, and the boards are to be used underneath the jack legs, or the outriggers as they're sometimes known as, for spreading the load of the jacks, and also to provide some friction as well if we are pitching on a slight incline. Those are to be used in conjunction with the jacking feet, which is currently in the bottom left hand corner of the image I'm showing you now. So in the smaller locker to the left of the access ladder, just above the rear wheel, you can see that's where the driver stores his kit. And then the full height locker, in there you've got harnesses which must be worn when you're operating in the cage, and other types of ropes and lines and strops that can be used to perform certain tasks when using the vehicle. Moving around the back of the vehicle, there are two access panels there with the doors open, and that's where we control the jacking system when we jack the vehicle. So you can operate it from the near side, which is to the left, or the off side, which is to the right. As you can see, there's also an access point to the rear of the vehicle from there. Then moving around to the near side of the vehicle, the first locker that we come across has a recovery cable on the top. If the vehicle were to break down, there are various methods that we can use to recover the vehicle, to put everything back where it should be, so we can hopefully drive the vehicle back to station where service workshops or fleet department can carry out any repairs if that occurs. Looking at the lower part of the locker, you can see there's various equipment in there, such as what we call a hooligan tool. There's a sledgehammer. There's also a branch if we need to distribute small amounts of water from the cage. And there's things like ceiling hooks and also a traffic sign to notify the public. Moving into the smaller locker, that's the locker that's very important to us if we're on a very, very long incident and we're there for some periods of time. There's a little kettle, and then to the left of that there are hot drinks that we can use for refreshments. Again, we've got an access ladder to the near side of the vehicle, spreader boards to the left of that, and then the front locker, we've got things in there such as cones so we can section off a safety area. We have a saw that we can use at height, and we've also got some rescue lines in there as well. That pretty much covers the lower part of the vehicle and the locker configuration, and that's the other side of the stretcher. And then moving up onto the top section, the boom package, we've got the turntable operator seat, and we've got the cage there. Now, anything that can be done from the turntable can also be done from the cage as well. However, the turntable does have an override facility where he or she can take control from the cage. Okay, now we're going to talk about the jacking process. So before we use the machine, we need to have a good, stable, solid platform that we can actually work from. There's no point in trying to get the boom package out the headrest without stability, otherwise it's just going to fall over. It won't let you do that anyway. However, we must make sure that it is nice and stable. So before we do the jacking, the driver and the officer in charge, if it's to be used at an incident, will have a look at what the requirements are, and they'll make sure that it's positioned in exactly the right place. If it's too close, you won't be able to move the booms because they'll be too close to the building or whatever the objective is. And if you're too far away, then you're going beyond those limitations of the vehicle. So it has to be in exactly the right place. Before we do actually get to work, we must make sure that the ground is a stable, solid platform, that there's no underground hazards that may give way once the weight of the vehicle is jacked, that there's no above head obstructions like cables, trees, lampposts and building overhangs. And if there is a slight slope to the ground, the cab must be facing downhill. This vehicle will jack up to a maximum slope of 7 degrees, which is actually quite steep. So I'm going to go through that process now. I'm going to engage the power takeoff to give us power to the back and go through that jacking process. And what this vehicle has is an intelligent system that monitors ground pressures on each of the 4 jacks, and it will actually raise the unit and finish off with a level platform before you can get the booms out the headrest. Okay, I'm just going to crack on with that. So the driver will access the cab and engage the power takeoff, and that gives him control of the machine and the jacking system from the rear of the vehicle. This can be done by any trained operator, but it's normally the driver who tends to do this at an incident. So what we'll do is we'll deploy the jacks horizontally, as you can see. And the further out you move those jacks, the further outreach is available to the machine. If you have the jacks inboard, which is inside the line of the chassis, then you're going to reduce the outreach on that side of the vehicle. So what we like to try and do is deploy jacks fully on both the offside and the near side. So as you can see, I've just positioned the spreader boards underneath each of the jack feet. And once they're in position, I then power the jacks vertically so that they are down, touching the boards, and they're sending the signal that they've got that ground pressure. Again, now I'm on the near side of the vehicle, so I'm moving the jack legs out horizontally until they're maximum, which means I can increase the outreach availability on that side of the vehicle as well. Then I'm going to position the spreader boards. There must be a spreader board underneath each jack foot every single time the machine is used, whether it be for training or at incidents. The boards are there. Now I'm going to power the jacks vertically down on those. Once the machine receives the 4 signals for each of the 4 jack legs, it will then raise the unit horizontally, and it will also take all of the axles off the floor. That's another requirement from the vehicle manufacturer and to achieve the best result. I'll do a little check on the computer just to make sure that all the ground pressures are equal. And then I'll carry out a safety check by circumnavigating the vehicle. Okay, so the vehicle's now jacked. It's raised the unit, done by the electronic onboard system, and it's ready to be used for the boom package. Before we access the boom package and the decking, we must wear full PPE, personal protective equipment, helmet, and if we're going to operate it from the cage, we must be wearing a harness as well. Okay, so we've jacked the ALP and we're now ready to use it. I've done my safety check. I've checked all around, all the jacks are fine, the ground conditions are okay, and that gives me the green light to go ahead with boom operations. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to operate the boom package from the turntable seat, and I'm going to take it through a full range of movements so you can see exactly what the boom movements are capable of. As I said before, I need to get into my PPE, so I'm just going to slip into something a little bit more comfortable. Okay, I'm going to give it a go. So as you can see, I'm now accessing the decking. I'm wearing my full PPE, personal protective equipment, and also the fire helmet as well. I've just deployed the seat back to enable me to sit down on the turntable, and that allows me to monitor the screen with the information, because as an operator, not only do you use your eyes to keep an eye on the boom movements and the cage movements, but you also use the information that's supplied on the screen as well, and that gives you distances and load capacities as well. The one thing I haven't mentioned is the load capacity of the cage. You can actually fit up to 500 kilograms in that cage. So I'm going to take it through a full range of movements. As you can see, the main boom is elevating. The second boom, which is attached to the cage, is now opening, and that's coming out. And now you can see I'm starting to extend the boom as well. As I mentioned before, there's 3 sections within the main boom, so those are extending now. The other facility that the cage has got is a slew. So you can actually rotate the cage or slew the cage 45 degrees to the left and 45 degrees to the right. And this is of benefit when we need to get up to a window and we need to actually square the cage directly up to that window if the vehicle is pitched just slightly off centre. So I mentioned earlier on that we use the ALP for rescues at height. It can be used for a number of things. One is a water tower, and that's when we work together with a fire appliance, and that supplies the water. And I'll go on to the monitor a little bit later on in this video. And it's also to be used for rescues below ground as well as above ground. So it's got the capability of going about 5.5 meters below ground with the second boom directly below. Now we can extend that by using lines and ropes which could be attached to the bottom of the cage. We also have the capability, as I mentioned before, of rescues above, and it can also be used as an observation platform for command and control purposes at a large incident. And we can do this by using the CCTV, which again I'll go on to later on in this video. It's also the best option for working at height. When we do work at height, we need to put harnesses on and we need to have certain safety procedures in place to make sure that we are safe. Whereas using an ALP is probably the best option because you can move yourself into the cage and watch the whole incident from there and also get closer access to that. The ALP has an incredible lighting system on there. It's all on 24-volt system and it's incredibly bright. So for incidents at night time, even if you're not actually using the ALP directly for that incident, you could still use it for lighting. We can use it as a high anchor deviation, and we work together with Pool Tech Rescue, and the other ALPs can work together with their near stations as well. I believe that's Chippenham and Stratton as well. Confirmation on that. And basically a high anchor deviation is just a large sky hook. We will pitch the vehicle and the tech rescue teams will set up all their ropes and use the ALP as a big sky hook. The machine can also be used as an external dry riser. Most high-rise premises will have a dry riser fitted, but for those that don't, the ALP can be pitched outside and can be used to supply water at height. As I've mentioned before, it's an aerial ladder platform, so the ladder alongside the boom package can be used as an external staircase. And the ALP can be used for any benefit at an incident where it will increase the closure of that incident. So it's got a multitude of uses really. I'm going to show you around the cage now. So as you've just seen, I've just got it to work from the turntable and I've positioned the cage down at ground level. In and around the cage we have certain functions and facilities to assist us on various incidents. We've got a water monitor which we can use as a water tower. And once you press a certain button, this comes into a set position, and with good communication with a pump and appliance you can deliver water to the fire ground, and this monitor will deliver 3,800 litres a minute with the correct resources in place. We've also got a joystick control so we can actually move it into position wherever we want to, and then when we've finished we can literally just press a certain button and it houses itself away once complete, and then we drain the system. In addition to the water monitor, we've got a normal instantaneous outlet that we call in the fire service. We've also got this hose reel drum with a branch that we could deliver small amounts of water to, and if we are close or above a fire with heat rising, we've also got 6 nozzles which when you open them up will provide a mist, a spray underneath the cage. It's called a curtain spray protector, and that'll provide a nice curtain. In addition to the monitor, we've also got a CCTV system. We have a normal camera with a 20-point zoom, and we also have thermal imaging camera, and this can be rotated up and down and has a full range of movements. And we also have the facility to record images as well, which can be relayed to our main fire control or a control unit that may be in position at the incident. One of our main primary uses is to perform rescues at height, and we have the facility of putting a stretcher in through the front of the cage, or we can suspend it underneath the cage. It depends on the scenario and the limitations that we're faced. We drop the platform down. This will all be done at height. We open these doors and then we slide in the stretcher support and the stretcher carrier, and then the stretcher will go in on top. So I'm now going to assemble that and show you what that looks like. Okay, so as you can see, I've assembled the stretcher support, stretcher carrier and the stretcher itself. So if we need to perform a rescue at height and a casualty needs to be brought down due to their injuries, we can put them in the stretcher and bring them back down to ground level. You'll have the operator behind the controls there, casualty laid down in the stretcher, and we've got room there for a casualty carer, and they can look after the casualty and reassure them as they're coming down, whether that be in the form of the ambulance service, a paramedic or technician, or whether it be a member of the fire service maintaining life support or giving first aid to that casualty as they're being brought down. As I mentioned before, we've also got the facility to have casualties brought down underneath the cage itself, and they will be suspended underneath. Okay, so we've now pitched the vehicle, we've jacked it safely, and we've carried out our safety checks, and that means now that we are in a position where we can use the boom package safely and effectively within its safety parameters. So we're now both in the cage, and we're going to operate it from the cage. And I'm just going to take this opportunity to show you how lucky we are here at Westbourne because of the lovely station ground that we are looking after. Okay, so we're now at full working height, which is 42 metres, and that's measured to the eye line of the operator stood in the cage. As you can see, we've got a stunning view from here. We're very lucky to have this on our station ground. And this is a view back down to the machine, to the appliance, looking back down the boom package and the ladder. Okay, so that concludes the tour of the aerial ladder platform. I hope you've enjoyed the demonstration that we've given you and the information about the vehicle. We have literally just scratched the surface. So I thought I'd finish off with showing you what a 7-degree pitch looks like. So that's the maximum working angle that we can pitch to with the booms deployed. So thanks again for watching.